Welcome to Commander Community, the show where we discuss everything, the people, the places, the things, the sights, the sounds, and the smells beyond the tabletop of Magic the Gathering's most popular format, brought to you by Star City Games.
I'm Anthony Alongi.
And I'm Sheldon Menery. In each episode, we'll address one or more hot-button issues in the Commander community. We'll talk about the community's current events, the intersection of our hobby with life in general, whether that's music, food, nerd culture, booze, anything at all, really.
And I, focusing on music today, will be asking, nay, singing to Sheldon, what the hell is wrong with you?
I am still 100% likely to have no answer, sir. Although, you know, what might be wrong with me right now is probably wrong with everybody. I think we're in this sort of general malaise because of our global pandemic. It's hard to see the end. You know, it's one of that alligator and the swamps metaphor. So I would encourage people to look up and out. Try not to get mired down too much in I mean, it can be depressing, but the better days are ahead.
Yeah, you know, it's almost a malaise of malaises. It really is just meta malaising out there, and I can just sort of feel sometimes my shoulders slumping over.
Yep.
You know, I can sort of feel like a little wave, and just every once in a while, especially with all the phone looking and everything else, just make sure everybody out there, you're taking care of yourselves and that you're being kind to each other. You know, it's we're part of a community, and it's not just the Commander community. There are other communities out there you're part of, and you got people who love you, so hang in there.
Yeah, reach out to them. Say, hey, check up on them. Don't let anything slip by. And join don't try not to be alone, right? Join your online communities. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about coming up in the first block.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's an opportunity coming up. It's one of several kinds. So we're talking about it in the generic sense, but there's a specific instance of one of these coming up. Scheduled by Channel Fireball, CommandFest Online, coming 22nd and 23rd of August. Yeah. As we record this, just a couple short weeks away. As you view this, it's probably just about a week away. So anyway, as we've done in the past for folks attending their first pre-con events, we're going to be talking about maximizing your experience. In this case, your online event experience, and in this case, for the Command Fest. I mean, what better guest can you have on than the great Sheldon Menery? So you're going to be doing this, right? I hope you are. Now that I've built you up.
Yes, the rest of the RC and I, in fact, will be doing it. It's a charity event, so we're going to donate our time to help them out. We're going to do a panel as well as playing some online games. And since we play regularly together on our stream now, that's Thursdays and Sundays, we'll split up and play in some pods with the con attendees.
Nice.
Like with all cons, it'll be a chance to reunite with old friends and make some new ones and experience some different games.
Right. And experience, right? I mean, like, the experience is going to be so different. I mean, it'll be the same in some ways as an in-person event, but it'll also be different than other events. For example, you know, pants not required, Sheldon. Good news for you, right?
I will, in fact, be wearing pants as I am right now.
Dearly hope so. And I do not adjust your TV sets at home, folks. There's no worries. Yeah, we are absolutely counting on everybody wearing all appropriate attire at all times, regardless of what you think your webcam is showing. So anyway, the experience will be very different. In fact, this is sort of experience that I have not had. I've played online now, thank you, and to Charlotte and to Toby and to, you know, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. What's that? Oh, Scott, right?
Yes.
My thanks to, and of course to you. My thanks to all four of you for helping set up a really great first online play experience for me last week. I wanted to say that publicly, but also, so I've played online and I've attended events in person. But I have yet to connect the two together. It's an experience I've not yet had.
Well, I guess that's even better for the purposes of our discussion then, right? We can we can open up this lotus for you a little bit. Yeah. So I guess the first question is then, what are your expectations of an online event vis-a-vis what you're going to dive into?
I've poked around. In this case, the Channel Fireball site. They're still working on what exactly the thing will be. That's fine. But I noticed the first thing about it was the registration appears to be like it's like a voluntary donation, which I just want to point out is really cool. And so my first expectation is that I'm going to donate. That's my first expectation, is that I'm going to participate in the spirit of the event. I'm going to make sure that what we're doing this for is a worthy cause, of course. Always recommend people research, find out. In this case, I believe it is, and we have an opportunity here to help people out. So, excuse me. I want to first thing is to experience that. The second thing I hope to do is actually I enjoy playing with you, Sheldon, absolutely, and I look forward to doing it again. But I also enjoy watching other players that have never played against you play for the first time. With Sheldon, people get, I want to say, unreasonably excited. I mean that in the best possible way, right? I mean that, they really get in a very delightful way. And I'm sure that even though it's harder to view online, the comments that they'll make verbally, stuff what we'll see in the feed and stuff like that, they'll just be kind of nice. I just like seeing people get excited again, almost like they're playing for the first time. And I think you and the other RC members and the CAG members one of the most important things you all can do is really get people excited about the game again. We're all already pretty stoked about the game, and we're happy to have it. And people who are used to playing online, I think, are still loving it. But just to refresh and say, hey, there's Sheldon, and he's the godfather of Commander, and gosh darn it, I'm gonna play a game with him, and that's gonna be cool. So I'm gonna watch is a lot of it. I'll jump in where it's available, where not just with games with you, but with other with the CAG members and with the RC members, or with other people that just want to play. I'll put myself out there too.
It's funny that there's a lot of when I go to live events, there's a lot of I'm excited to play with you, and some of it's genuine. I'm excited because I love Commander so much. Then there's the other end. It's like, I'm excited because I'm gonna crush you.
I'm not looking forward as much to that particular dynamic.
I'm going to exert my dominance over you, which means for a second that I'm in charge of Commander now.
I can remember. So when Magic Online first came out, and I was still right for Wizards, they gave me an account. And it was one of those free accounts. You get as many. You had unlimited numbers of cards. It was this ridiculous, setup.
But you couldn't play in tournaments or anything.
Oh yeah, you can't play in tournaments. You couldn't, actually take advantage of it in a monetary way. But they just wanted me to go out there and just be an ambassador, right?
Sure.
So I go out there and I would have a series of decks that I played, and one that I would reserve for the people that I could, if there were recurring people or people who would kind of trash talk me a little for the game. I'd get a game with them. I had a game with the, what is it, Psychometric Probe. It's that artifact for 2 mana. Whenever a player shuffles their deck, they take 2 damage.
Right.
And it was a mono blue deck, and it was, remember, 4 of everything, so you could count on it. It wasn't Commander format. It was a big, and so I had 4 of those, and then I had all the walls, and then I just had stuff like bribery. And other stuff where you would make them shuffle their deck. You go look at their deck, get stuff out, and then they would shuffle it, and then it'd be like, bing, 2 damage, right? That I would just save for these special souls that just wanted to. I'm going to tear it apart. Like, maybe you will, but in the meantime, I'm going to have some fun. But there are also all the really fun decks that you can have and experiences that you can have with folks. And I'm just looking forward to watching people in the Commander format really have a great time with you and with the other members. If there are panels and such, I'll admit I'm not much of a. I've done in other contexts. I've been on panels. I certainly enjoy talking, but in terms of
I hadn't noticed.
But in terms of watching a panel and such, if it's people that I kind of already know and I follow already on Twitter, what I have found is that I'll hear some themes I'm already familiar with.
Sure.
And so I might be less likely to attend those. But I think it's great that you do that, because there's always new people, new pairs of ears, new brains, new questions that do come up, and I think it's smart to do them.
Well, especially now that we've done these for a while, right? Q&As and even in the online world where I probably do a quarterly AMA and things like that. Q&As, panels at events are starting to feel a little overdone to me. Like the questions are the same and the answers are the same. You can almost macro up, which to me then isn't compelling viewership. Isn't compelling for the people in the audience. Oh, there's the hybrid mana question again, or oh, there's the banned is commander question again. When are you going to unban my favorite card? I think that it's just not. I mean, I'm there for the people, right? The folks that have brought me in. I'm there. Whatever they want to talk about, I'm fine talking about. But like I said, I think I think we have to start exploring new ground for panels. I mean, I agree. What would be compelling viewership for you?
What would be compelling viewership for me would be to maybe mix a panel. Just make it clear from the start as you solicit questions that it's going to be 2 or 3 questions kind of from the audience, but also that the panel asks themselves, like each other, questions, because you are all less likely to ask yourself. I mean, I don't want to create the visual of you just talking to each other while other people watch. I mean, it's a little it's part of the solution. It's not the whole solution, but one of the first things that occurs to me. And maybe you mix it up, and this is just the first version of what you do. Is you ask each other questions. I watch the Command Chair now. Finally, I've accepted that you have another show, and so I watch it.
Right. I swear I'm thinking about you the whole time.
Oh, I can tell.
That other show means nothing to me.
Well, the other show, when I watch it, it's cool to watch you interact with people where I assume conversations might happen a certain way while you're behind closed doors, but it's not. I mean, you actually still surprise each other. And it recalls, like it's a lot like, Sheldon, what you do. I believe it's a lot like being a politician, and I'm a voluntarily retired one, and I can tell you that you get a certain number of constituents that come up to you with the same things. I don't like this. I want taxes lower. I want like there's a certain set of stuff, and then they have visions about how decisions are made in a back room where you all smoke cigars. And then if they get to know you well enough and they witness you talking to others, not just in public but in private, your fellow elected officials, what they see is, oh, geez, you guys, you actually do surprise each other. Like it's not always what I think it is. And so trying to find a way to give people a window into how you interact, not who you are, Sheldon, because people get to know you pretty well through all your different media, but you with the others. I thought it was really good of you to start having conversations in front of other people. So I would do more panels, a couple of those, or add elements of those panels like that. I also think it'd be kind of interesting to set up a panel, and I'm not talking about myself, of people, maybe people we've highlighted, where you set up panels of thoughtful contributors with, partly an eye to diversity and diverse voices in the community, but also just different play styles, and let them have a panel and talk about stuff, and then have you all react to that panel. Like in other words, let the audience see a conversation within the community, a lot of different voices, a CEDH player talking about, what they wanted out of the Flash ban, with people who are like, I don't get why we had to have a whole conversation about Flash. To try to find people we trust, people we know will do it responsibly. And to have that conversation, but then to have you react to that panel. So it's a true community panel that then you all react to.
Well, it becomes more of a roundtable at that point, right? We had a tremendous success, I think, with the roundtable at CommandFest DC, where over the course of the first 2 days, people that I would play with or people that I would meet that seemed to have interesting takes or just voices that we wanted to hear, I invited them to do a roundtable. I was the only RC person there, but Olivia and Stibbs from the CAG were there. So the three of us just sat with maybe 10 people at the table, and then whoever wanted could come watch. Right. And I think we broadcast it too at the same time. I think I think Star City set up, a quick web shot of it. But then it becomes a back and forth conversation. It doesn't become sort of monodirectional. And I think especially for moving into the future, getting the conversation flowing both directions, not necessarily as sort of authority and subject, but peers in the bigger picture. Sure, I mean, we might have a kind of responsibility, but in the end, we're also all just Commander players.
Yeah, and you're fun people too. Like, and another experiment. I'll just toss one more out there, and then we can move on. But one more other idea is, like, I always enjoyed watching people who I knew could handle being a little bit on edge, like in a lightning round environment where you have to, in 5 words or fewer, answer this question, and just, and rotate it through the members of the RC or the CAG or whoever happens to be on the panel. But just to do things that are a little bit unexpected and have that moderators kind of try to catch you off guard, like questions like, okay, name one hybrid card that makes you regret that you can't have hybrid mana, in an off-color deck. Like, and have you go, I don't know, Shadow of a Doubt, or like whatever comes to your mind, and try to get that subconscious part of you, like, because you are already expecting, and people are starting to learn that you were expecting some of these questions. So how can we get you to kind of be a little surprised and to surprise us again? That's what I'd be looking for.
Would it be interesting to you if we would start a panel? So, like, say Scott and I are doing a panel.
Sure.
And
I'm already there. Because Scott's just automatic.
Right. Well.
Hey, Scott.
He's certainly the best looking of the CAG members. I mean, of the RC members, right?
Oh, by loads.
Yeah, right. So, it's a 2-person RC panel, and at the beginning of the panel, it's basically a Q&A. Only we grab somebody from the audience, put them on stage with us, and for the purposes of that, panel, they get to be a member of the RC as well.
Sure. Yes, I think that's fantastic. And like any great idea, it comes with risks. Right? Like, but
you think?
But go. Yeah, I know. But go for it. I mean, and you could pick your, like, if you're doing it online. I don't want to say, like, an application process is a little overwrought.
You can
say, but to enter this opportunity, we're going to have a randomly chosen member of the community to enter. Send Scott or Sheldon, or DM them, whatever, your name and your address, and in 50 words or fewer, why you think you'd make a great panelist. And then that you've at least got some basic quality filter. It's still not perfect because it's also online stuff. But,
I'd hate to grab somebody out of the audience who's like an extreme introvert.
Right. You don't want to make them uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable.
You want people who want to be up there, so to speak, with you. And let them do that. And the other thing to do is just, you can also manage it by just saying, hey, for the next 5 questions, you're up here with us. And then we'll pick somebody else for another 5 questions. And that keeps people engaged. And that way, if you get somebody who's like, whatever Sheldon says is good, or just somebody who just keeps yelling at you, what the hell is wrong with you?
Right.
You can be like, all right, well, I guess that's the 5th question. Let's move on. And then you go on to the next one. I think it's very good. It wouldn't, with very, very minor tweaks, I think you could have a real thing there. I like that.
Well, you got to make sure. I mean, the old show business axioms apply, right? Never work with children or animals.
Right.
Although, an adorable puppy would be a great panel member.
A panel puppy. Oh my goodness. That's just that's great. That's excellent.
So let's talk a little bit about the differences between online cons and in-person ones, because there certainly are substantial differences.
Yes, and I haven't experienced them personally, except for, I will admit, to some mixture of anxiety and concern about an online conference. It's not necessarily rational. I'm not suggesting that it's. I just I get maybe getting old or whatever, but I don't think that's it. I think it's more because I've seen in the business world, and you've seen, we've all seen, like, experiments that work and experiments that don't work. And we've seen, like, we're used to thinking of things in a certain way, and then we say, hey, let's do this whole thing that you're used to doing a certain way and totally change it up. And the first question is, why? Well, in this case, we get why. You know,
Right,
that's an easy barrier to get over. But then the second thing is, gosh, I wonder if the cost will still be, the benefit will still be worth the cost. Like will it be what I want it to be? And I think about that, the same thing that people will think about with telework, every manager thinks about with telework, which is, will people actually be there? Will they show up? Well, I think they're there, but when they're not really there, well, will we get what we want to get out of the experience? Will we get that kind of, that good energy that we want? And so it's just, you know, somewhat irrational, somewhat rational anxiety and such. That's all I can say is different about the experience, because I haven't experienced it yet. But what do you experience when you do
Well, I think the first thing is that you're not going to have the holistic experience. You're not going to be able to wander in the hall and let the feeling of the event wash over you.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, you're doing it from home. So, or, you know, maybe with a couple of friends, you know, trusted friends, but there's not the energy of 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 people in the room. Right. So you can't, there's not that kind of energy to feed on. So you really have to bring your own energy to the event. You can't just wander around either. Well, I mean, you can wander around your own house as much as you want, but there's, you know, it's not like you can't slide past the Star City booth and check out what the cards are and flip through the dollar rare bin or you know, whatever you're going to do. You can't go see the artists in person and demand that they, you know, sign 250 cards for you or whatever. So the sort of the feeling of the con, of the in-person con, is lost. So I think you're going to have to compensate it for some other way. We've certainly talked before about how webcam games are themselves are different than in-person games. There are certain kinds of decks that you probably don't want to play. You know, you don't want to. If your deck with a bunch of briberies in it is awkward. You know, in a webcam game. Or again, I keep threatening the other members of the RC. You know, maybe I'll do that. We're streaming this afternoon. I think maybe I will just bring my Amanatsu deck and let it be damned. At some point, we're gonna have to puzzle this out a little bit and try to come up with a way. Maybe it's a piece of paper off to the side with big letters where you write all the stuff you've got, or I don't know what it is. But people have been really thoughtful about tokens and tracking life and stuff. I mean, there's got to be a way someday. We'll come up with a way, I'm sure, of tracking, you know, permanence under some other player's control. Right, but I mean, but still, you again don't have the immediacy there that you do in person. So I think for one, then just you have to be sensitive about the kind of decks that you play. One thing I've noticed about CommandFest Online coming up is that in the Discord server, there's a mutual match app or something. I'm waiting for them to get back with me for the exact details of how it works. But the idea is that you'll match yourself up with people who want to play similar style of games. So if you want a big Dirtle Fest, or you want to see who's supreme at the highest power end, you can do that without so much worry that the streams will cross. So online, I think the online matching is a great idea. They should use my quadrant analysis. I'll point that out. We'll move on. So the online experience, to me, what I really appreciated about what you had to say was just that idea of, like, you can't roam the stacks of the library, right? You can't do those things that you're used to doing. It's a little bit like, speaking of libraries, it's a little bit like the difference of what people were saying when ebooks first came out. People would say, yeah, but you can't crack that cover. You can't feel the pages. You can't, the light is, the warm light of a bedside versus what, the first ebook readers were pretty awful. Yes. Like what that was. And I think that we're in that early ebook phase where we're still figuring out how to make the light
a warm light and how to make it so that you can, flip the pages around. And I think that we're still figuring that out. And I think that's okay. I think that's good. We have to have events like this. And I'm looking forward to being part of that learning experience as a participant and just kind of figuring out, all right, what did I like about this? What didn't I like? I'm not going to, I mean, even in a real person event, I didn't attend the whole thing. So I mean, that part of it I can certainly adjust to, but I have on my calendar, I'm scheduling off blocking off amounts of time. As I get to know the calendar for this specific event, I'll try to match those a little bit with things that I might find particularly useful or fun to do. And then, it'll be a little bit for each day, it might be a fun thing to debrief maybe down the road. One of our September episodes, perhaps, kind of revisit, what are we learning? What are we seeing? I would say, let's please open the lines, so to speak, to our community members who can let us know, we do read, well, I don't know if you read, I do read YouTube comments and chuckle at some of them. And
yes, I read them all myself, despite saying that I never read the comments. I read the comments.
Yeah, read them. I just am gotten really good at ignoring the ones that are clearly just there for themselves. Right. And so being able to read, whether it's on the YouTube or on the Twitter or on the Facebook comment pages, just to be able to kind of read the ideas that you have. And if those of you that attend, please give your experiences. Channel Fireball probably have feedback, but I'm sure, Sheldon, that you'd like to hear directly from people who have, clear enough thoughts on that.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear from people who have attended these events, because we're going to have more of them in the future, right? This is going to be part, hopefully it's not parcel, but it will be part of our rest of 2020, maybe into 2021, who knows how long experience that we're going to do these online things. I think that, one of the positives of this pandemic is demonstrating to us things that are possible. Even though they might not be optimal, it's still about possibilities. So, we do have to understand that communication is very different in webcam games and in Zoom meetings and whatnot, because you're not picking up the physical clues of other people who are talking. You can't see them, and so much of human communication is nonverbal, but you're not getting that on a webcam.
Right.
So pay attention to that. I think the one thing that I would advise is, it's more difficult in an online con to meet and hang out with new people, right? At a regular con, you might just strike up a conversation. You're playing a game, person walks by, sees your cool Anthony Tech there, makes a comment. You have a side conversation. Maybe you run into each other in the hall later. Your interaction with other people is more limited. So what I might suggest in this case is then to make the most of it. Yeah. So if you see somebody playing in a game, like there are games that you'll be able to railbird. So if you see somebody playing in a game that might be interesting to you, or you played in a game that you thought a person was cool, take the step to communicate with that person. Have a online conversation off to the side. Invite them to whatever Discord server that you're hanging out on, or whatever it is. I think finding new friends is part of the convention experience, and I wouldn't want people to lose that just because we're online.
I hope that we don't have a pandemic that lasts long enough for us to get really good at this. But I
right.
I do believe that for those portions of the community that believe that the online play continues to be important part of their future, and I can understand why. They're the people who live in remote areas. They're people who just enjoy it, which is fine.
Yeah.
And I wonder if down the road we might come up with some sort of like a Yelp almost is its own joke now, but it's almost like coming up with like a rating system that works, something that could be like, what was your experience in playing with this person, and and if it's a new player, to be able to, that's not a bad thing, but like, there are rating systems and tech out there and ideas that we could share and think about down the road. Not for this event, obviously, which, it would take a lot of setup, but over time, I'm hopeful that whether it's Channel Fireball or some other arbiter of kind of online play can kind of help figure out how are we going to help each other find each other. One way is if I showed up, I would have a pretty distinct but hopefully easy to read online profile. People would be like, that's the kind of game I'm looking for. I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that. That you would have maybe a distinct, maybe more complex player profile than I would. There are others out there that would have, I'm more of a CEDH player, and so when I play with CEDH, this is the kind of, I get good feedback. And how do you mix all that together? It's kind of an interesting intellectual problem that I have to admit I'm slightly fascinated by in the moment. Anyhow. Yeah, I think our A block is pretty well resolved for now. If you agree, sir, I'm thinking that it's a good event to look forward to.
Yeah, I look forward to attending this particular ones in the future. And obviously, if you have any questions about the online experience, feel free to hit me up over on the Commander RC Discord server.
Right. All right. Well, let's transition then to our community contributor of the week. We gotta get the graphics to come in and punch. It's like a community.
That's to be a hammer sound someplace.
Magic is about the gathering. All right, here at our Commander Community Show, we like to recognize those who make the gathering worth it. They go above and beyond the call of duty, and they really just make us happy to be part of that community.
We're going to go a little bit outside the box this episode. There are armies of folks who donate their time. Armies. I can't help but make the war metaphors.
Yes, that's fine.
It happens. Who donate their time to being moderators on websites, Facebook groups, Discord servers, and all across the internet. They keep the discussion civil and on point.
Yeah, and that's particularly important nowadays. We've got a lot of interaction. You really care a lot about that lifeline when it's your only lifeline.
Right.
It's got to work. So much of our interaction comes from web communities. So these folks are invaluable, and they do it. They just feel that call, right? They do it for the best of reasons. They don't do it because somebody said you have to. They're not necessarily employed by anybody. Right. They do it because they realize that it needs to get done. And it comes with the extra sauce of knowing that it's almost like being one of those people in the store nowadays that has to know they're going to have to go up to the person without a mask, wearing, a certain kind of hat, right, and say, you need to wear a mask, sir or ma'am, and you just know what you're going to get. You know what's coming. You get your cell phone ready, right? You got your phone ready with it's going to be a Twitter video here. I can sense it. But no, in all seriousness, these people know when they moderate a board or when they bring a group together and they have to do that difficult work that they're going to make some people unhappy, and it might come at a cost of them getting, yelled at or just otherwise dealt with in unpleasant ways.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're the ones who have to rein in unacceptable behavior. And I always said in the judge program, when you are disciplining a person, you're not necessarily providing great customer service to them, right? But you're providing great customer service to everybody else,
right?
So when you have a person making toxic comments in a forum and you boot them out, that's good customer service.
It is. It's excellent.
And unfortunately, the folks that are charged with the responsibility of doing that, again, often uncompensated, just there because they believe in it. Then it's very much, that's the heart of what being a community contributor is about.
Yeah, I agree. It's wonderful to have there. And so we just want to say thank you to all of you. There's obviously way too many to name. We've hinted at some in the past, in terms of people who moderate certain key Facebook groups and others, but we just want to thank all of you for doing what is frequently a thankless job. And we want you also define what it means to be a community contributor. So our hearts and minds are with you during this very long and difficult time.
Hearts and minds, in fact. Yeah. All right, let's move into the B block. Songs in the key of Commander.
All right. So all of us, I hope all of us have favorite music. styles, bands. There's songs across all kinds of spectra, and music plays a pretty large part of most people's lives, and so like one of those things like Commander that they're passionate about.
Yeah, so we're interested in finding here at Commander Community the intersection, again, of our game and our other hobbies in our life. What Anthony and I have done, without sharing any details, so we did this independently and didn't work anything out together beforehand.
I looked one way, he looked the other, we wrote our list down from 2,000 miles away.
Right. So what we've done is choose a few of our decks to give theme songs to. Or maybe theme bands. Nothing is really off limits here. Yeah. So we're going to go back and forth talking about the deck, kind of what it does, and why we've chosen this particular song.
Right.
Why don't you hit us with your first one?
Well, so I took what I think is a pretty obvious one to start. When I grew up, one of the things I loved was the Star Wars trilogy and Empire Strikes Back and the Imperial March. And so I did songs for all of mine, by the way. So my song is Imperial March, and my deck is the Nicole Bolas. Right? Because it's a couple different things about this. First of all, in this case, my deck has a mix of man and machine, and it has a lot of Tezzeret in it, and we all know the story of Darth Vader a little bit.
Sure.
And how he undergoes a transformation, but we also see this particular presence that is overarching multiple chapters, and we've met him, and then we go back in time and we meet him again, and we kind of we've seen him and reflected on him a lot, and so I've got a deck that even has a syndicate trafficker that looks a little bit like a Star Wars thing, and then I have to hold this up because Star City Games may not have it. My energy tokens actually look a little bit Star Warsy, but Nicole Bolas is one of those characters who strikes back and who comes at it in a way where you can hear that theme every time he comes up, but you also know that he's going to lose, just like I am, and so it kind of works out.
Imperial March would be the music if I was a professional baseball player. Yeah. Imperial March would be the music that I would choose to have playing when I walked up to the plate every time.
I thought you were going to say the Yankees, but yes, that would also work for you.
It's threatening. It's you're gonna have to bring it neat because here I come. I'm literally marching out to meet you. Yep. So what's your baseball theme music?
My baseball theme music.
Yeah, if you're
for me to go out.
If you're the baseball player, what are the Benny Hill theme probably, right?
I was about to say, some sort of circus music of some kind. Yeah, I played in Little League. I did not distinguish myself. We'll leave it at that. How about your first pick?
My first one is I'm going to go with a relatively simple one. It's my Gishath deck. Okay. Which is full of dinosaurs. And what dinos do is they just come stomp on stuff.
Right.
Sometimes one at a time, sometimes in herds. But so the theme song that I've chosen here is Led Zeppelin's Trampled Underfoot.
Nice.
Now, the thing about Trampled Underfoot is it doesn't really sound like a trampled underfoot kind of song, right? Agreed. It's a lot bluesier. Yeah. I believe that the song "Kashmir" by Led Zeppelin actually sounds like trampling on stuff underfoot,
right?
Because it's got that da 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 da. And didn't they use that for the '90s Godzilla movie?
They did. I believe that is the movie that they used it in. They've used it in a variety of.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those recognizable pieces of music that has that has feel, has ethos, has.
Right, and then it got covered. It's been covered by more modern voices that have since then had their music then put in the movie soundtracks too. So it's all.
Oh, so you like there have been crossovers and samplings of whatever. So we're gonna trample things underfoot with my Gishath deck for my first pick.
Nice, I like that. All right, I'm going to go further back in time. Don't worry, we have some more modern songs too. But I want to go back to classical music for my next one, Tristani, the original.
Selesnya's voice.
Yep, Selesnya's voice. Although the other Tristani discordant is in the deck. But I want to point out, I'm looking down. I'm sorry, it's not good video technique because I need to look down at the cards. But there are cards in it that Vivaldi's Four Seasons is what I want to use as the song for, or the series of songs. Mostly spring, just because of the way Populate works. There are cards like Full Flowering and Storm Heard, but there's also cards like Second Harvest, which brings up autumn, right? Like when I look through it, there actually was like, oh my gosh, there's actually quite a few cards. There was also, I don't know if Vivaldi was doomed, but there was also a doomed artisan in there.
Right.
And as I looked at it, I'm like, like the idea of artisanship and how composers work and stuff, it was just kind of a nice, it felt like something I should bring up in this show. It's sort of like, building a magic deck, we get to make our own compositions. And I just liked, and I've thought about Vivaldi. Actually, when I went through the deck, I'm like, actually have thought about, Vivaldi and Four Seasons, mostly because it's a great composition that I think of all the time, and used to play back in the day in brass quartets and such. But it's just really, really evocative music, and it's also it is for an evocative deck. So most
folks who think they aren't familiar with Vivaldi's Four Seasons are. You've heard it. The movement that you're most familiar with is Winter, because it plays during Christmas a lot. And it's featured in the Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy classic Trading Places.
It is
quite a bit. So you might.
That's not necessarily speaking to our younger viewers, but yes,
right. you might think that you don't know Four Seasons, but you probably do. It's certainly a Baroque masterpiece.
It is.
Since you went to Tristani,
yes.
I too will go to Tristani. It wasn't my number 2 pick, but we got to link these things up, right? This is the way we do things. So my Tristani deck is an Angels and Life Gain deck. So it's Angels Tribal. I've gotten most of the non-Angels out of it to the point where I think there's no more Solemn Simulacrum. That's how themey that I've gotten that one.
Wow, that's dedicated.
And the song that I've picked for it goes right to the titles. It's Dream Theater's On the Backs of Angels.
Sure. Great song.
And if you're a prog rock fan like I am, then you know all about Dream Theater. Dream Theater is the place that heavy metal and prog rock intersect. Right. You drive down the broad avenue of one and intersect the flowing street of the other, and there lives Dream Theater.
Yeah.
And this song is, like my Angels deck, huge and does big splashy things, right? It's a little darker themed song because it's about great societies building themselves on the backs of angels, on the backs of the idealistic and and sort of the worker class and whatnot. Yeah. But we're going to get there in the Tristani deck. We're going to get there to our 2,500 or 25,000 life. I think 23,000 something is the highest I've had before in the deck. We're going to get to all that life on the backs of these angels. Nice. I'll also note that twice, well, I'm sure that more than twice I've gotten killed by commander damage when I've been at 2,000 plus life. Once it was by Zedru. Zedru killed me with commander damage. Now, Zedru killed me with commander damage is not a thing that people say a lot.
No, it's not. Not anybody who has any semblance of self-respect.
So my pick number 2 for Tristani, Dream Theater, On the Backs of Angels.
Very nice. Okay. For my next deck, I took one of the Titania, the Protector of Argoth. I have a mono green deck built around her. A lot of people have a deck like this. It uses Zuran Orb, and then you wax all your stuff, and then you hit. I have that in the deck, but it's it's not where it tries to go all the time. I just have it available for, it's an escape hatch for certain situations. But when I thought about this deck, because I just felt like, gosh, it's just such an evocative deck. I had to think about why was I thinking about this without come up with a, with a song. And my son, who actually helped me with this exercise, helped me figure it out. And really it's about how strange it is in the sudden appearance of monsters. And you have to go back a little bit you have to be a bit of a student of Rush to know about La Via Strangiato and to know that song comes in chapters.
Yes.
One of which is monsters. And it's the theme. It's the, it's kind of, it's that most exciting, what most fans believe is the most exciting part of the song. Right before the really amazing bass solo. Let's face it. It's 9 minutes of amazing music. Oh, it's nuts. When Steve Morse, I don't know if you've heard Steve Morse covered it, and of course Steve Morse is back from the from one of the bands that had similar musicians that have since led to Dream Theater. Some of the same musicians.
Yeah, Dixie Dregs.
Yeah, and he did a whole cover of it, which was masterful and still not as good. And all I could think of whenever I listened to it is, okay, yeah, he can compare to Alex Lifeson, no problem. But that poor bass player, whoever he was, like who did such a great job. And if Geddy Lee didn't exist, everybody would be like, "Who's that bass player?" But you're screwed because you're not getting anywhere. Anyway, so for this deck, there's a couple things going on. First, the lands, the township, if you will, is suddenly turning into monsters. But one of the coolest things about it, Siege Behemoth, 7/4, time signature.
Yeah. You went full nerd, didn't you?
Yeah. It really. I wish that I could say that I thought of all that all at once, but I didn't. But it's just a nice confluence of stuff. And once I saw all that, I was like, perfect. Yes, La Via Strangiato for that deck.
So I mean, when you're thinking about Rush and monsters. Did you give any thought to like Bytor and the Snow Dog?
Yeah. Many great.
Or maybe we just build a Bytor and the Snow Dog deck at some point.
You do an Ice Age deck out of that, right? You pick something out of that, and you go a Cold Snap, something out of Cold Snap or something. Yeah. What's your next deck?
Number 3. Where am I going to go with number 3 here? I am going to go with my Carador deck, my primary Carador deck. It's called Halloween with Carador because it likes to continually resurrect, over the course of an evening, if you will, resurrect things from the graveyard.
I knew one of your 17 Carador decks would play into this somehow.
Well, you gotta stick with the brand, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the song, now, I'm going to confess that this was a little bit of a way to work in my current obsession with music into this bit. And the song is from a band called Nightwish.
I've heard you talk about, and I've heard some of their songs too. They're good stuff.
Nightwish is a Finnish symphonic metal band who is fronted by who I believe to be the world's greatest vocalist, Floor Jansen.
Okay.
And the song is called Ghost Love Score.
Okay.
And it was from the band before Floor was their vocalist. They'd had 3 vocalists, each sort of an operatic style. The original vocalist of Nightwish was like just an opera singer.
Yeah.
And then the second vocalist was sort of a notch down from opera with some rock. Floor is just it's the face of artistic perfection when you listen to her. And Ghost Love Score, I mean, she shows off her range, and people talk about the high end range because you don't see it a lot especially in metal music. The high end range is from some skinny dudes screaming, not this 6 foot tall Dutch goddess, just who probably needs the helmet with wings and is belting it out. And yes, I know that the helmet with wings is not Dutch; it's Norse. But before we get comments,
before the Vikings invaded, maybe
her her mid and high range is amazing and suited to this music. And the thing is, in Ghost Love Score, she also sings in some of the lower registers, like in the really deep low registers of the female range. And I need a cigarette every time. It's just this. So now, Halloween is about ghosts.
Yeah.
Ghost Love Score is about the sort of the longing for people that have gone beyond.
Right.
And with Carador, we can bring them back. And that's why Ghost Love Score by Nightwish is my Carador pick.
Right. We got time for a couple more, right?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I think we do. My next one, I'm going to try to do this in a way that Star City Games doesn't need to edit me. I got this. Don't worry.
No swear words, Anthony.
Well,
no potty mouth.
Okay. And if it's in the title of the song, we just have to figure that out. But that's okay because the music industry also figured it out. And in two instances, in two instances at least, with CeeLo and with Lily Allen, there was they each did a version of a song that was it suggested that the listener go explore their own sexuality in a very personal way.
Oh man, you sure you want to do this?
That's all right. That's all I'm going to say about it. Everybody now knows what it is. And there are decks that say that. Are there not? And so I have a deck that has a pair of commanders that I guarantee you've never seen together. Okay. Crom, they're partners. Crom and Ravos. Okay, the blue-white and the white-black. The blue-red and the white-black. And the whole purpose of this deck, I created this deck out of the leftovers after 2016, Commander 2016, which was one of the better Commander sets released. And I actually don't have as much of a problem as a partner as most of the community, but I get why there's certain combinations that got it. But I did this whole thing and I put together a whole bunch of decks and I put them in decks and I created all these 4-color decks. And then I had I had 2, 3, or 4 of these partners left over. And I just wanted to make decks with them. And I wanted to explore the spirit of it. And at the same time, I was noticing in my group, we were doing a whole bunch of searching and we were doing a whole bunch of, shuffling and taking our time. And, if I could build one of those pro bribery decks, I would have. But, you can't get that in the Commander deck to go very well. You just have to stop people from doing it. And then I realized that those 4 colors are the colors of all the cards that make it difficult for people to search their libraries. And so there's 2 themes to this deck, one of which is flyers, because both of these commanders fly, and I have to win at some point. Right. So all the creatures in the deck fly. And then the other theme is no. I encourage you to explore your own sexuality in a very personal way. You may not search your library. So Shadow of Doubt and Stranglehold and Mindlock Orb and Aven Mind Sensor and they're all in the Overwhelming Splendor, Ob Nixilis Unshackled. There's all these rules cards that just say you just can't. You just may not. No. Had enough. Let's just play the game.
Man,
go jump in a lake. By the way, the Lily Allen song has been my theme song for the last 3.5 years.
Okay.
Just want to say to folks that that's an amazing song. So we all know players that have decks that say that in some way, shape, or form. Yep. But this is an expression of it that I thought was kind of innovative. It's not telling people, it's not locking down the game and saying you can't play. It's doing it in an inclusive way, which both versions of this they're very different. It's not cover of one or the other. They're both very different songs. 2 different artists, 2 very different songs, same title.
Seems like Frankie Go to Hollywood Relax would be the.
So you keep trying to pull this into a family show, Sheldon, and I'm just trying to tell you, it's all right, But I get it. Star City Games. Thank you for tolerating this. I hope I did it in a respectful way. But it was when I saw it, it was just too perfect. I mean, how can you not talk about these songs and how we think about it? Because I do every once in a while. I whistle it to myself, and I'm not a very good whistler, and while I'm playing out the deck, it works out quite well. What's your 4th deck?
For number 4, I'm going to go with one of my signature decks. Kresh gets into the red zone. And this one isn't
Nice.
much about Kresh. It's just the song that flies into my mind every time I play Kresh.
Right.
And it's the theme song from the remarkably bad 1970s film Flash Gordon.
It is.
And it's Flash's theme, and you know it.
Yes.
Because Queen did it. Queen did the soundtrack.
Yeah. Queen
Flash.
did a lot of songs that could theme our decks, I think. Queen did a
Flash, savior of the universe.
He is the savior of the universe.
And I'm not gonna try to sing it at the Freddie Mercury vocal ranges.
Thank you.
Here, but yeah, every time that I play Kresh, the Flash theme song, and oh my goodness, is the movie terrible?
Oh, it's so bad.
It is so bad, and you and it's not. You can't excuse it by going. It was the 70s. You know, many of the greatest films of all time.
Right.
In America came from the 70s.
Right.
They were before 1974, but anyway, or from before 1975. But yeah, but every time I plop down Kresh, it's savior of the universe.
He's eating up all the kobolds. All right.
What's your last pick?
Should we do our last pair of decks?
Yeah, I think we do a last pair.
Mine is much more conventional now, so thanks again for your tolerance. So Athreos, the OG Athreos,
Okay.
So the God of Passage, and one of the song that I think of here and again. I'm giving a little credit to my son who helped me kind of think through and process what I've seen in the deck, what he's seen in the deck, what songs he thinks of when he plays against the decks. It was helpful to me, so thank you again, Lee. Was Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. Actually, there's a whole raft of Soundgarden songs that, from the Day I Tried to Live to, a whole bunch of stuff. I tried to find a good Spoonman deck, but I just couldn't. But the Black Hole Sun, of course, is something you think of not only when you look at the Damnation, right? When you just sort of look at that thing and you go, whoa, but also the feel of the deck, which is this sort of relatively dirge-like but still very powerful feel of inevitability to it, right? And it's going to take and kind of the only thing you can do is just accept that it's coming and try to work your way through whatever happens next. And that's the feel that the deck tries to project is look, all these creatures are going to die. You can give me back mine, or you can pay 3 life. You can work out your own problems to whatever you're facing. You work out your own solutions to whatever problems you're facing. But I've got my own plan, and it's a sort of a dirge-like, inevitable sort of plan.
Yeah, so. The card that came to my mind when you said Black Hole Sun is Merciless Eviction.
It's in the deck too. Yeah, same.
Merciless Eviction doesn't do too well with Athreos.
Right. No,
because it's exile. But and I assume that there's a Black Sun Zenith in there as well.
There was until I needed it for my the Snake deck that puts -1 counters on all the stuff. The Hapatra deck that you saw that I played last Sunday. I only have so many Black Sun Zeniths, and I try to make the decks. But yes, it was very much there. Yeah, Merciless Eviction is less there for the creatures than it is for like the artifacts. Not really for enchantments either, because it's an enchantment based deck. But artifacts and planeswalkers tend to be, you can get there's a lot of decks out there that like to like the Atraxa decks and the other kinds of decks that can give this deck fits. So like to have solutions.
And now I'm not one to tell you how to live, but it's okay for you to own 2 copies of Black Sun Zenith.
I'm simplifying for the sake of our discussion. I have about 3 copies of Black Sun Zenith. I have something like 70 decks. They are deployed elsewhere.
Okay. Just want to make sure because there are places like our sponsors where you could go and find as many Black Sun Zeniths.
One is in my Marquez of the Black Rose deck. One is I'll spot them for you if you want.
Okay.
I have. Thank you for introducing me to Architect. While I have initially found the interface a little difficult, it certainly is easier than writing all my decks down over and over again and sharing them with people who are interested. And I'll be making an effort to put some. I know you have most or all of your decks are on Architect. I'll be making an effort as we introduce decks to each other here on this show. I will be trying to do the same and put my decks on Architect as well.
Yeah, they actually implemented. They worked with the folks from EDH Rec.
Yeah.
To develop a feature that I had asked them to develop.
Right.
That was, I want to see which of my decks, since I have so many, which decks I'm playing a certain card in. Because a lot of times I don't like to repeat, I don't like to go back to the same well. I'm probably playing too many Coiling Oracles as it is. But
probably.
But it's a simple, now it's just a simple search feature, and it'll bring up a list of which of the decks that I'm playing certain cards in. So thanks to the Architect and EDH Rec folks for taking care of that. That was good. So my last pick is going to be with my Karthus, Who Rains Fire from the Sky deck.
Okay.
And Karthus is a dragon, of course. Mm-hmm. And the song I've chosen to go with it is from a band called Hailstorm.
Okay.
Fronted by Lizzie Hale, who is fierce. I mean, Lizzie Hale is fierce. And the song is called I Am the Fire.
Right.
And the message of the song is not complicated. Lizzie is the fire.
Yep.
And she's going to continually rain down on you.
Nice.
I Am the Fire. It's again, I've been exploring some like women in heavy metal music over the last several months. And I'd heard of Hailstorm before, and I might have heard a track or two, but just the raw power that comes, the raw emotional power that comes into the Hailstorm music is the exact kind of thing that maps to the raw emotional power of dragons just flying around and spitting flame onto each other. Right. So Hailstorm, I Am the Fire.
If I could just go generational here, and I know that you're super old, but the Gen X, if there's one thing that I am, we haven't gotten a lot of things right, and there's things that we've done wrong. But one of the things that I appreciate that we have done right in our generation is to there were an awful lot through the 80s and 90s of young women finding their voice that went well beyond how women were allowed to speak and talk before then. And of course, we owe baby boomers a lot too. Like I know a lot of younger folks don't believe that baby boomers did much for the world, and there's still way more they could do, and a lot of them are regressing very awfully. Yes. And a lot of women found their voice in that generation, and then our generation took them and put them into genres of music. And so you can listen to Flyleaf or from Flyleaf to Joan Jett to all these things, and then and now this new evolution. What I really appreciate about what additional generations are doing is taking that to the next level and creating music and bands that are just really empowering women to speak in ways that we don't often get a chance to hear them speak this way. Not just angry, although there's plenty of justification in place for that.
So,
just as much as there is for men, but just enthusiasm and sort of concern and anxiety, but also all the full range of it, guilt or it all feels a love, of course, and happiness is also there too. But that whole spectrum that allows women to be and listen to music and feel what they need to feel. I've talked to several friends who've told me that of how cathartic it is for them to be able to listen to a woman's voice and hear that. And I appreciate that for the sake of my friends. Thank you.
It's practically all I've been listening to in the last several months.
Yeah. So my gratitude to those artists. I mean, they just really have done well. And all the artists that we mentioned today. There are lots of honorable mentions. I did try because I know that we both liked the musical a lot. I think I might have liked it a little bit more than you did, but Hamilton, I did try to think, because some of the music is just. I tried to shoehorn a deck into one or two of the Hamilton songs, and I just decided it wasn't. I was forcing it too much. But I just want to say it's that musical and the music from it have kind of revitalized a lot of my interest in a lot of different kinds of music. And since we're talking about music today, even though it's only tangentially magic related, I just want to say thanks to all the cast and crew and the composers and the everybody who's had something to do with Hamilton, but also just great music, modern music, all the people who still work every single day to bring a different kind of art into our minds and brains. Music is something that we can still tie us together during these times. We can all still listen to the same song at the same time. We can't attend a concert, but we can do we can still listen to that same soundtrack, and we can still hear the Imperial March in our heads.
Right. Well, Anthony, there's still plenty of work to do, but unfortunately, it's time to wrap this episode. If you are watching us on YouTube, please remember to follow, like, subscribe, and ring those bells. We'd hate for you to miss an episode in which Anthony's initial question continually goes unanswered. Would you like to tell these folks where they can find you on social media?
Absolutely. And this time I will not do it in song. All of our watchers and listeners will be relieved. You can find me at Anthony A. Alongi on Twitter, or on Facebook, you can find me at Anthony Alongi.
I'm on Twitter and Facebook by my name. That's Sheldon Menery. Please tune into my other show, The Command Share, every Thursday here on Star City Games and on YouTube, where I sit with one of the other Commander RC members and talk about all the important issues and all the cool cards. Also on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern in the US, you can catch me and the rest of the RC on the Commander RC Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv Commander RC. We're also now streaming on Sundays as well, 2 p.m. Eastern in the US. Finally, on Sundays in a written form, you can find me right here on Star City Games writing about the best format in Magic history. That's all for this episode. As always, I'm Sheldon Menery.
And I'm Anthony Alongi. Thank you once again for letting us be part of your community.